Hello, thank you for joining us. Thank you. You can let somebody know about this meeting for people that want to move to Canada. Just a quick second. See. Right, so this is an information session for people that want to move to Canada. Um, if you know someone that is planning to move to Canada, you can just let them know about this meeting. You can share the link with them, and we will commence very shortly. Yeah. So you can just tell somebody to tell somebody we are starting very shortly. All you need to know about moving to Canada, especially from Nigeria or from wherever you are, you want to come in as permanent residents or you want to come in as a student, we'll be putting you through some few things you might need to know so that you don't enter into one chance or what we call trouble. Um, there are many agents out there that are scamming people right now based on what I have heard, especially on relocation. Um, First, I'd like you to know, put a disclaimer out that I am not an agent, I'm not an immigration lawyer, I'm not an immigration consultant. I only want to share some information I have that worked for me and which I believe might be of help to one or two persons that may be interested in moving to Canada. If you're on the line joining us live, can you comment so that I can see you? Let me know people that are on the line. Um, I'm also going to have time to take questions, specific questions from people that might have one or two inquiries. I want to trust God I'll be able to also answer you to the best of my knowledge. But just as I've said, I'm not an immigration lawyer and I'm not a consultant. I live in Canada. I moved to Canada last year, and I, my wife and I, we packaged our applications ourselves. We did not consult any agent. We did not speak to anybody. We did not use any lawyer. We processed our applications ourselves. So based on the knowledge I have and based on what I do know, of course, I'd like to pass on the knowledge to as many people that might want to go through this route. I've had many people send me message, oh, Pastor Nee, how did you come to Canada? What did you do? And that and that and that and that. And, you know, I'm tired explaining skeletally to people, different persons. This video might be my reference point. I'll just tell them, go and watch that video and you'll be able to understand what I did in my own case. All right. So let me start by saying that the official website for Canada, for the government of Canada, is canada.ca, www.canada.ca. Anything you want to do with the government of Canada must be through this website. If any agent is asking you to apply through any other website that is different from this, then the person might be scamming you. So you should know that the all information, authentic information about Canada, moving to Canada, residing in Canada, coming to Canada as a student, as a permanent resident, as refugee or whatever it is, must be through this website. It is just one. www.canada.ca. All right. So first, let's start from Express Entry. I like to know people that are on the line. Let's know people that are on the line so that we can I can be able to identify you and also um, address your personal concern later after this information session. First, there are many ways through which you can come to Canada. Many ways. You can come in as a student, you can come in as a refugee, you can come in as permanent resident, you can come in as a worker, you can come in, through different means. But however, um, the best ways, or how will I say, the best way through which I feel you can come into Canada, and you can settle down is coming in as a permanent resident. Now, my wife and my family and we came in as permanent residents. And what is the implication of that? The implication of that is that as a permanent resident, you have access to virtually everything the citizens have access to. The only thing, thank you, Adams, Ibrahim. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Kelvin. The only thing that you might not be able to do as a permanent resident, the only thing you will not be able to do is to vote and be voted for. And another thing is maybe some top security jobs, you may not be able to get that as a permanent resident. Other than that, you are able to access virtually every services of the government, the schools, grants, housing, scholarships, and all of that. You are able to access that when you come in as a permanent resident. And of course, there are some social services that are available to permanent residents that are not available to students, that are not available to just workers, that are not available to people that come in as refugees. However, just as I've said, the best way, I think, this is my opinion, that I feel is the best way of migrating to Canada is to come in as permanent resident. Though it is very highly competitive, it is highly in demand. Virtually from all around the globe, you see people coming into Canada, seeking to become a permanent resident. All right. So, but when you come in as a permanent resident, it places you at an edge, far and above people that are students and all of that, because you have so many resources at your disposal. Another advantage of coming in as permanent residents is, thank you, my brother, Egbon Mose. Thank you for joining. All right. Another thing that really, there is also an advantage of coming in as permanent resident is that after 3 to 4 years, you become a citizen. Of course, you apply to become citizen and all of that. So you become a Canadian. So to say, that's another advantage of permanent resident. All right. So let's go to some of the things you need. Some of the things you need to know, or things you need to do as you prepare for your journey to becoming a permanent resident. And you are going to know if you are qualified or not. And if you are not qualified, you are going to know things you need to do to make you qualified. Now, if you are planning to travel very fast, just like the way UK is doing for maybe care pathway and all of that, Canada may not be for you, because Canada immigration is not very fast. I must be very sincere with you. Canada immigration is not very fast. For example, let me use myself as an example. I started planning to move to Canada in 2019. In 2019, we started the preparation for Canada, but we did not receive an approval until 2022. We did not receive an approval until 2022. So it is not a fast. If you are looking for, oh, I want to JAPA before April, I want to JAPA before May, I want to JAPA before June, Canada might be very, very, very hard to get very fast. So Canada takes time. But one thing about it is that it is worth the wait. It is worth waiting for. So what are the things you need to know when you are preparing for Canada? If you want to write, please write, because I'm going to be a little bit fast. The first thing is that you need language skills. It is very important that you are able to communicate in at least one or both of Canada's official languages. And of course, that is French and or English. So the major language spoken in Canada is English language and French. So you need to be able to speak English or French or both. And to really tell Canada that you know how to speak. It's not just speaking and say, oh, I know how to speak. No, you need to write examination. And there are many examinations you can do, but the most popular, especially for Nigerians, because I believe my audience, many of you are Nigerians, is language testing. And that is IELTS. 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 I think there is IELTS for UK, there is IELTS for Canada. So when you want to apply for IELTS, ensure you tell them that you are registering for IELTS Canada. And if you want to come in as permanent resident, the kind of IELTS you will do is IELTS General Training. IELTS General Training. Because there is IELTS Academics, which is for the students. Then there is IELTS General Training. So if you are coming in, if you want to come in as permanent resident, you want to apply and package your stuff for Canada, you need to apply for IELTS General Training. And there is like a minimum score you must have. A minimum score, and that is what they call CLB 7. That is Canadian Language Benchmark. You must have minimum of CLB 7. All right, for at least one official language in all 4 language areas. And the language areas includes speaking, listening, reading, and writing. So when you're writing IELTS, there are 4 parts of that exam you will do. You write, you do writing, you do speaking, you do listening, where they will play some, audios to you, and you listen, and you, of course, you'll be able to write down some of the things they are saying. And reading, just to test that you can speak, you can read, you can write, you can, listen. All right, so that is that. The one thing I need to tell you, thank you for putting it out there, Bro Moses. One thing you need to know about Canada is that, especially for the express entry, is that it is a point-based system. And what do they mean by a point-based system? That means that they are able to rank the score you have in all areas of your life and put it as points. Now, the total point is 1,200 points that, you can have. 1,200 points. And for you to have 1,200 points, that means virtually in all the indices that they use to measure eligibility, you have almost 100% in all of them. And I'm going to review that with you. So out of the 1,200 points, language, then out of 1,200 points, there's a way we reconvert it to 100 points. I know some people may be confused, but you are going to get this very soon. So they ranked it, like we ranked it as 100. So out of the 100, language is 28 points. That means if you have like band 10, band 9 in all your IELTS, your speaking, your listening, your writing, your reading, you are able to have 28 points. And after your language, your language, another thing you need to do is to assess your education. So if you have BSc, if you have masters, if you have PhD, you need to assess your credentials. So that means your degree certificate, your transcript will be sent. You need to send them to some of these agencies that are delegated by Canada to assess foreign credentials, and they call that Educational Credential Assessment, ECA, Educational Credential Assessment. So it is just to authenticate that, okay, the certificate you have from University of Lagos, from KSU, from UNILAG, from OAU are also like equal to the certificates, to the appropriate certificate also in Canada. So for example, when I assessed my BSc from my school in Canada, I did 5-year course in Nigeria. In Canada, it was equal to a 4-year bachelor degree in the course I studied. So if you have masters, you also assess that, and you are able to get points for that. So, but there are many bodies that you can use to assess your educational credentials. You can use WES, and that is World Educational Services. And WES, for you to, you can, for the website for WES is WES.org. WES.org. Ensure that you click on WES Canada, because there is WES USA, there is WES Canada. So when you're applying for assessment, ensure that it is WES Canada. Another one you can use is International Credential Assessment Services of Canada, ICAS. Another one is Comparative Educational Services, CES. Another one is International Qualifications Assessment Services, IQAS. Another one is International Credential Evaluation Services. But now, out of all of this, if you ask me, what do I recommend? If you have just BSc, I will tell you, go for WES. If you studied law and you want to do the educational credential assessment for your law degree, I will advise you to go for IQAS. Now, this is it. Why did I say this? Now, for your education, how do I put this? I want to bring something out for you guys to know. For your education, the maximum points you can have is 25 points. 25 points. That's the maximum. That's like you have PhD. That's the highest you can have. 25 points for your education. So if you have BSc, your point will be very low. Maybe around 15 points. I'm not too sure. Then if you have maybe you have masters, it can be around 20 points or 21 points. I'm not too sure. I'm not telling you this authoritatively. But one thing I do know, that if you have PhD, it is 25 points. All right. So now you assess your BSc, your masters, or your PhD. Now, if you have multiple certificate, like you have PhD, West might ask you to send your PhD certificate and dissertations and also maybe your master's degree or whatever. But if you have masters, I will say you just access your masters only. Don't access your masters and the BSc. Access the masters only. Now somebody is asking for PhD, for HND. Yes, so HND also can be accessed. So you also need to access it, send it through West. They will also access it for you. All right. So you can access your HND, you can access your ND, but the thing is that you may not have enough points that will make you to be among the top people. That when they are sending out invitations for people to apply to become permanent residents, you may not be able to be qualified, because you will be qualified, but because the many people are in the pool. For example, 30,000 people are in the pool, and they want to invite, let's say, 5,000 people this week. They will invite the top 5,000 people. So if over 5,000 people have BSc, have masters and PhDs, for somebody that have just BSc alone may have very low marks, so that you don't get invited. All right. Um, let's proceed from there. So what am I saying? Like for law, people that studied law, so IQAS, law is a professional degree, and law is expected to be assessed as professional degrees. Medicine is expected to be assessed as professional degrees, and for professional degrees, you are able to get the same points as somebody that have masters. So if you have MSc, or you did a professional course like law, dentistry, medicine, you will get the same points for masters, and that's around 21 points thereabout for your education. So if you assess your law degree, especially from Nigeria, with West might give you postgraduate diploma, which is not up to the points for masters. So, but if you assess it with IQAS will give you, or should give you, what is called professional degree needed to practice in a licensed profession. And that will give you the same points as somebody that have masters. So let's proceed. Another thing you need is your work experience. You must be able to demonstrate that you've been working in your chosen profession for at least 15 years, for at least 3 years. If you demonstrate that you have worked for 1 year, yes, you are qualified, but you have low points. If you demonstrate that you have worked for just 2 years, you have low points. So you only have maximum points when you demonstrate that you've been able to work for at least 3 years in your profession. And for Canada, there is something we call NOC code. That is National Occupational Classification. I'm going to put some of these the links, maybe possibly after this video. I'm going to put the links on this YouTube video. So there's what we call National Occupational Classification, so that to get selection factor points, your work experience will count if it was in Canada, or while you were studying, or while being self-employed, or while working in a particular profession. Okay, somebody's asking for IQAS. IQAS is international. Let's see. Yeah. Just a minute. Let me get you that information. IQAS is International qualifications assessment services, international qualification assessment services. And of course, when you even type IQS on Google, it will bring you, to that page. All right, so let's continue. All right, so like as I said, your work experience, so you must be able to demonstrate that you've worked for like 3 years in a chosen profession, and you are able to get reference letter from the places you have worked. Very, very crucial for some people that will leave the jobs where they were doing, and they leave on a bad note, and you go back to them for reference letter and they tell you, no, we can't give you. Then that becomes a very sad note. It's become a challenge. You need reference letters from places you have worked to tell IRCC, that is Immigration, Refugee, Citizenship Canada, which is in charge of this. Yeah, right. That's it. Adams. Yeah. So you are able to demonstrate to them that yes, you've worked in this social places and this and that and that, and in that letter they must be able to tell the IRCC that you were employed full time, the salary you were placed on, and the number of hours you work in a week. For example, if your work is 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., it has to be stated in that letter. If it is not stated in the letter, you can be rejected. These are some of the reasons why many people applied and they were rejected. They received rejection letter, and it becomes a very, very great challenge. All right. Another thing that will really help you is age, and this is a main challenge for many people. Age. And what is age? What is the point? Now, if you are less than 18, of course you are not qualified to apply. So if you are between 18 to 35, you are expected to have around 12 points. If you are 36 years old, you will have 11 points. If you are 37 years old, you have 10 points. 38, 9 points. 39, 8 points. 40, 7 points. 41, 6 points. 42, 5 points. 43, 4 points. 44, 3 points. 45, 2 points. 46, 1 point. 47 and above, 0 points. So this is where age is now a factor. My people, listen to this. Age is, Canada want people that are very young, so that by the time they come, they're able to blend in, and they have greater part of their life. Sorry for that. They have greater part of their life, to live in Canada. Canada don't want people that are like 50 years old to come in as permanent resident, because a 50-year-old man just have like barely 10, 15 years to, for their productive life, so to say. So the younger you are, the better it is. Now, what is the implication of what I'm saying? So that means Canada want people that are very well educated, that are young, and have at least 3 years experience. Did you get that psychic now? People that are educated, young, and have at least 3 years of experience. When you have that, you are able to have high points. Now, as at the time we applied, of course, Robozi said, yeah. So, as at the time we applied, my wife was, of course, she's younger than me, so she was below 30. We were able to get the right points we needed. As at the time we came, we had 470. Our point was 473, and the cutoff point was 471. So 2 points made us to be selected to apply to Canada, and that was in 2020. I told you that we started preparing for Canada in 2019. And what was the preparation? We applied to WES to assess our education. Nigerian factor, the school delayed. We were praying, fasting before the school could release our transcripts, for assessment. Many people have lost so many opportunities because of transcript. So if you are here on this platform, you have not even gotten your, your transcript before, you've not gotten your certificate, start preparing to do that. All right. And also we wrote IELTS. To the glory of God, my wife and I, we wrote IELTS once and we passed, and were able to get the required points needed for to be invited to Canada. Another thing that can make you to have additional points is if you have a job offer in Canada. If you have a job offer in Canada, you have additional 10 points. And another thing that can make you to have more points is if you have your sibling, if you have a brother, a sister in Canada. If you have that, you are able to have additional points. So for example, if my younger sister or my younger brother or my wife's siblings want to come, they have additional points because we are here. All right. And of course, if you have maybe your spouse, your wife or your husband is in Canada, you have additional 10 points for that. Another thing is all right, so those are the things that they rank together that makes you to have the necessary points for express entry. Remember, what we are talking about is express entry. This is the first thing we are talking about, express entry. Maybe we are going to have another time for people that want to come for students, but what we are currently talking about is express entry. So what have I said so far? To come into Canada as a permanent resident, you need first to have language assessment. So for English, you do IELTS. There are other exams too, but IELTS is very much common, and to me is a little bit much easier, to pass exceptionally, especially from Nigeria, because most of my audience are from Nigeria or from any part of the world. People from India, people from Pakistan, people from Asia, China, they have come to embrace IELTS because IELTS is standard and you're able to get that. Now, IELTS, as at the time we wrote IELTS, IELTS was 68,000 naira. But I have been told, of course, before we left Nigeria, it rose to 75,000. But I think somebody was telling me yesterday that IELTS is around close to 90,000, and it's because because of the rate of exchange. The exchange rate is very high. Naira is getting weakened and all of that, so it's around 90K. And of course, if you are paying 90K for an exam, you know that it's either you pass or you pass. When we're preparing for IELTS, I took out time. We prepared for IELTS for I think almost 2 months, my wife and I. Oh, IELTS is 91K now. Thank you, my brother. 91. As at the time we wrote, it was 68,000. So I'm told that it's on the comment, it's 91,000 naira now. So you need to prepare. And for people that want to prepare for IELTS, I'm also going to put maybe some link that I used. Now, some people go to for lectures, for tutorials, for IELTS. We did not do all of that. We sat down in the house and studied for our IELTS, right? We studied, we sat down and prepared for IELTS. There was no, we didn't go for any tutorials. People were going for tutorials as high as 45,000, 50,000, naira for just 3 weeks. And 3 weeks is just 3 days in a week to 2 hours. I didn't really have that kind of money to waste. So we sat down, watched YouTube, studied some materials. I downloaded a lot of material, printed some. We read some online using our laptops, and we were able to write the IELTS, and we passed. All right. Then, so what am I saying in a nutshell? For you to come into Canada as a permanent resident, you need to your language testing. You need to be able to prove that you can speak, you can write, you can listen, you can read in English, and also your education. The higher your qualification, the better. So for people that doesn't have masters, I want to encourage you. Wow. Okay. Somebody said I have colleagues that take between 45K to 50K for IELTS. Right. So for people that don't have masters, I want to encourage you, especially if you are looking to come into Canada. This express entry is still open, I think, till 2025. I'm not too sure, but I know it's still on. If it is something you need to start preparing for now, you can start. Even if it is to do masters from Open University or any school. And you do know one good thing about Canada. Canada does not consider the class of your degree. Maybe you have passed or you graduated first class, or Canada don't really give a dime. What they want to know is that you graduated. All right. And you have the certificate. And the school can confirm that you graduated from their school. So if you don't have masters, it may be very difficult. And you need to be sincere. Or except maybe you are a doctor, you are a lawyer, you are a dentistry and all of that. Those are the people that have qualifications that is equal to masters, because many people in that pool, it's just like a pool. Based on what we have said, you are okay. You said you have written IELTS, you said you have masters, you said you have a sibling in Canada, you said you have 3 years work experience. So there is a form you fill, and after filling the form, it gives you your total points. So, and that point is what Canada uses to invite. So, for example, if you have 450, maybe because you don't have masters, maybe your total point is 450. You have 3 years work experience. You are, let's say, around 30 or less than 30. You just have BSc. You don't have any sibling in Canada, and let's say your point is around 440 or 430, 440. And Canada is inviting people and saying people from above 480. Now, because your point is 430, you can't be you will not be sent an invitation. So you must ensure that you do everything you need to do to have your points high. Another thing that people do is to learn French, and this is a game changer. And this is what I want to tell somebody here. If your age is high and you have checked and you have seen that your point is very low, another thing that can be a game changer is to learn French. I was almost going to learn French because I said, as at the time, COVID happened and all of that, we didn't get invited until December 2020. No, until November 2020. That was when we were invited to apply. right? We did not get an invitation until, because of the COVID. COVID shut down the world at the time, so it was becoming very difficult. So what am I saying? Learn French. If your age is high, if you don't have a sibling in Canada, learn French. And there's what they call Alliance Le Français or something. Alliance Le Français is one of the game changer. If you learn French and you write French exam, it is a game changer because you are able to get almost close to 50 points. So all these 1 point, 2 points, 3 points, 5 points you have lost due to age, you can get that back using French. All right, I'm going to put the necessary link on this YouTube page. And of course, if you apply to Canada, you must be very sincere because Canada is going to verify. You must be very, very sincere. You must not lie in your application. If you lie in your application and Canada finds out, you are going to be barred from entering Canada for 5 years. So that means you cannot apply. You cannot do this. You cannot do anything. You cannot come anywhere around Canada. And you know there are 5 nations that shares information: Canada, US, New Zealand, Australia, and the United Kingdom. So these G5 nations, they share information. If you have committed crime in Australia, Canada will know. If you have committed crime in UK, Canada will know. If you have committed crime in New Zealand, US will know. So they share information together. So you must ensure that whatever application you are putting up, it is very true and correct to the best of your ability. All right, so let me take questions. I have some few more minutes to go. Possibly we are going to have another part 2 to this, and in that part 2 I'll be able to simplify to you, all right, even after you have done your IELTS, after you have done this, after you have done that, how do you put up those applications together so that it makes sense, so that it doesn't get denied. I've seen many people who applied, they were qualified, but because of mistakes in the application, they were rejected. It was very disheartening, especially for somebody I know. I never knew that he was applying for Canada as well. So after the person was rejected, the person reached out and said, you are in Canada now. I applied also, but I was rejected. And why was the person rejected? The person failed to include one of the reference letter from the place he had worked in the application. It's as simple as that. But as simple as it made him to lose that approval, and he's currently still in Nigeria, trusting God. And of course, he will need to go back into the pool, and year by year, people lose points due to age. It came to a time that when birthday was coming, with like, God, so this is how we are going to lose another point due to birthday. So it is very important. We are going to have part 2 where we'll be able to simplify. I'll prepare more. I decided to do this, I think 2 days ago, and I didn't really prepare for this, but the next class or the next time we're going to be meeting, I will put out some resources and some concrete information so that you're able to know what to do and how to go about your application. All right, somebody's asking a question. Please, sir, how do we get the link to apply as a Canadian permanent resident? I'm going to put the link on this YouTube. Just check back after some few hours, maybe in an hour time. I will put the link on this. I'll put the link on the YouTube, and you'll be able to get that. All right. Is there any other question? Yeah. Yes, is to go and enroll in French lessons. If you do that, It's going to be a game changer. And of course, I will put a link also that will make you to like, okay, if I do French with my current age, with my current credentials, with my current experience, if I have this so points in my IELTS exams, what will be my points? So you have an idea. For example, the last invitation that was sent out, was it last week? Where over 7,000 people were invited to apply to Canada. I think the cutoff was around 490 something. You know, it is still very high because of the COVID. Canada did not invite people for almost over a year. So, and people are writing exams. So there are so many people in the pool. But they've started inviting, and of course, the score is going down. It was as high as 550 something. Then it has come down to 490. Of course, the more they invite people, the lower the scores go down. All right. Is there any other question I need to attend to before I go? All right. Okay. Well, if there is no more questions, thank you for joining. I believe somebody is able to pick one or two things in today's um information session. All right. Somebody's asking, thank you, sir, for the update, but I am a professional building engineer and I want to know if we can maybe get a list of construction firms so we can start submitting our CVs. Okay, I will try and also see to that. I will try and check. But these things, some of these things are very much available online. Just search for construction firms in Canada, and you will get them. It's as simple as that. For Canada, there is nothing hidden here, and you know, virtually every establishment are online. Virtually every establishment are online, so you are able to get access to the necessary information you need in their website. So I will encourage you to just go online. Google is your friend. Just type construction firms in Canada, and of course you are able to see them. And also, LinkedIn is your friend if you want to apply, especially for work visa, or you want to have certificate of sponsorship or certificate of what we call um, like a letter of employment, an offer letter. You can check LinkedIn and start applying. Though it becomes very hard, especially when you're applying from outside Canada, but there is nothing impossible. Somebody's asking, please. Is there any financial qualification for application to fly? Okay, yeah, there is. Of course, I'm going to talk more about the financial part maybe in the next part. But one, there is something called proof of fund. That is after you have applied. You must be able to demonstrate that you have proof of fund that you know that when your application is approved and you move to Canada, at least for the first 6 months, you can sustain yourself. You know, you can rent an apartment, you can feed yourself, you not depend on Canada. Because once you come into Canada and you cannot work and you've not gotten job, you've not gotten anything, you might be a burden on the government. Government will have to give you subvention and all of that. So for Canada to approve your application, you must be able to prove that you have funds available at your disposal that you can use to sustain yourself for at least the first 6 months of your stay as a permanent resident. Yeah. So that is that. So I'm going to be giving you how much you need for one person, how much you need for you and your wife if you are coming with your spouse, how much you need for a family of 3, for family of 4, family of 5, and all of that. All right. Is there any other question? I need to go right now. I have another appointment in 9 minutes. Any other question? Okay. Thank you. All right. We'll call it a day. Now, I hope that maybe possibly next week, Monday, we can do next week, Monday too. And we'll look at my schedule, maybe possibly around this time, have another information session. And I hope that one will be more broad, be able to be more precise, go into details, and pass out informations that are necessary. But just as I've said, you can check back on this YouTube channel in the next 1 hour or so. I'm going to put a lot of information and links, so that you can check through and make your informed decision. All right. Okay. I hope you have a very great week. I believe somebody has been able to pick something, one or two things in this session. Thank you for joining, and see you again. Bye.